Building Blocks 2025 in Tel Aviv. The future of tech.
Hello. All right. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome. Great to have you joining our amazing panel with the very epic name, Time is a Flat Circle. I'd like to please invite my great panelists, Lou, Michael, Matt, Adam, please come and join us. Okay, so thank you for joining us after lunch. I hope we can spice things up a bit here. Today in our panel, we're going to discuss basically a bit of the lesson learned from the previous bubbles. I know here at the audience and on stage, we have some great, very serious individuals, some very serious blockchain and crypto OGs that have been through a thing or two in their lives. And today we're going to focus on some of the lessons that we've learned from the previous tech bubbles. So from the .com to mobile to NFTs and ICO, to learn a bit about what we're currently seeing and where Web3 founders currently stand, which is truly on the shoulders of past very serious tech revelations and revolutions. Have we learned anything, or are we actually just following the same things all over again? Right? So let me start by doing a quick round of introduction. I'm going to go first. So Odelia Tortman, I've been doing digital finance for the past 13 years now, most recently with XRPL arm in Paris. This is basically Ripple's arm. XRPL is an L1 decentralized network that was designed from inception to support financial services with quite very intelligent and impressive pre-built functionalities that are very, very interesting. And the arm in Paris is basically focusing on supporting the adoption of the XRPL across both founders, developers, institutional players, as well as investors. Before joining Ripple, I was with the World Bank investment arm out of Washington, D.C. for 4 years. Before that, I was with Deloitte for 5 years, leading the fintech and the blockchain arm, among other things. We're not going to go into all of that. Let me please hand over to Michael.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me. Michael Amar, I'm the founder of the Paris Blockchain Week conference, which is going to happen from April 8 to 10. Looking forward to see you there. We expect over 10,000 people in the Louvre. And also the founder of the Race Summit, which is the largest AI conference in the world now, happening July 8 and 10 with the CEO of Intel, or the All In podcast can be shot live during the conference.
Amazing. My name is Adam. I'm the co-founder of Collider Venture. We're the leading fund investing in crypto in Israel. Been around since 2019. Prior to that, I was a partner at 500 Startup, mainly investing in the Israeli market. And prior to that, I was for 15 years an entrepreneur. I started a couple of companies. Most of them failed, sold one, and that's pretty much it. Matt?
You only need one. I'm Matt Kumell from Digital Currency Group in Stamford, Connecticut, which we were trying to make the crypto capital of the world. I don't know how well we've done there.
That's Israel, no?
I've been with DCG for 4 years. We're investors in the digital asset space. We have wholly owned businesses. We have investments in venture equity, in tokens, and in fund of funds. I think we've written somewhere in the neighborhood of 700 checks across 400 businesses. And I have a background in traditional finance, hedge funds, banks, and all the stuff we're going to disrupt.
And you have some hair, which we don't.
I'm sorry. I do have hair. I apologize.
I'm Lou Kerner. I saw the crypto light on June 29th, 2017. What I saw was, for the first time in history, we had a tool set for the community. And I thought that was going to be the biggest thing to happen in history. I started something called Crypto Mondays, which is now the largest crypto meetup on the 59 chapters around the world. And now I'm focused on a community management AI agent. I think with AI, we can finally solve at a faster pace for token economics and governance and consensus.
Thank you all. Very impressive panel. I think it's great to have people that have been through the Web 2, Web 3, and survived to tell. So, Lou, why don't we start with you, right? And speaking a bit about the adoption curve and about the utilities of these technologies. So, What were the key moments within the internet and the mobile era where you felt like the technology moved from toys for nerd to an actual infrastructure solution? And how do you envision this change to be seen across the Web3?
Sure. I think it happens in fits and starts. I joke I have a word that I use to describe the tendency of markets to swing between bubble and crash and bubble again. I call that capitalism, right? That's all it does. But you can see like something can go along like social networks. In my view, social networks began when Mark introduced the news feed, right? So there are moments when all the tools are there, and then all of a sudden something happens and it starts to go up and to the right.
Well, open for everyone. So
Yeah. So I was, I think, 14-year-old when I opened my computer. I mean, I had a computer when I was 8-year-old, but I opened a computer for the first time. It was connected to the internet. And someone told me there's this thing called the IRC. You can talk to other people. And so I connected to that, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I could talk to many people around the world, which I couldn't before. And that was pretty much the aha moment for me that I said, okay, this thing called the internet is going to be huge. And back then I was pretty much for nerds. Okay, I think it was 94 or 95. And then I started researching, recently, how the internet evolved. And the internet evolved from, probably from DARPA, you all know the story. And there were a lot of like networks that were using like different standard TCP/IP. There was no TCP/IP, but there were many, many, many different things. And at some point, I think in 81 or 82, they launched the TCP/IP, and then they connected all those different networks that had different, mechanism, and that's how the network of network, the internet, was basically conceived. And the way I see Web3 is that we do a lot of stuff in some of the networks, some of the stuff that we do, in finance, we do things in, privacy, we do things, many, many things. There's many, many blockchain. And the way that I see it is that probably 10 years from now or 20 years from now, everything will be connected, everything will be on-chain, digital, everything will move seamlessly between all those networks, everything. Reputation will be on-chain. You'll be able to make money from being reputable on GitHub. And that reputation will be used as collateral to maybe buy something. You could buy 2% of an apartment. So this is how I see it. It's going to take a while, but at some point there will be a flip that everything will get connected and people will be like, oh my God, I didn't see it. That's at least how I see it.
But nobody cared until it was easier to use. Like you were on IRC, nobody else was.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you needed a graphical user interface, you needed hyperlinks, you needed a web browser. And then it still wasn't really that adopted because it was still it was information. And so you needed to be able to actually action something and do something and get some real world benefit out of it. So it was really like e-commerce that was kind of the big tipping point for the internet. And if you look at where we are with Web3, it's still the IRC days. It's still, I try so hard to work in this space and play with the different things that we're investing in. It is painful.
They're all shit.
I was with my son on vacation a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh, I'm going to buy this token that my company just invested in. And there were 10 of them when I went to go buy it, and I bought the wrong one. And I'm supposed to be smart. And I look at it, I'm like, I got 14 million of those tokens. Do you think? I think we're going to be really rich. But it was we need that like usability, and the usability isn't there. But even more so, the web browser was the usability. You need to be delivering something of value, and that's the thing that we're not doing yet.
I think we're there when we don't think about it anymore, right? So when you received an email from your grandma, a chain email, that okay, email is there, right? So same thing with Web3, when you will show your passport on your phone and it will be on the blockchain, you don't think about it, you just put it out. So that will be the adoption where you don't think it's Web3 or whatever.
Absolutely. And Matt, I really like what you said regarding timing. When I was at Deloitte in 2015, every year we said this is the make or break year of the blockchain. Every year we start at every conference, and I feel like, unfortunately, from one side we're still on the same place, but from the other, there's also, people say, no, it's a scam, and, currently we're almost like reliving the same bubbles. And I think we had some great sessions earlier where we spoke about tokens and how can one, should issue tokens in a more regulated, structured way. And we speak a lot about cycles and about timing. If we compare what we're currently seeing with tokens to what we previously saw with the ICO and with the NFTs, how do you take into consideration the time element?
I think it's killing us. No, I mean seriously, because innovation is being killed by speculation. Each time we have a new format coming in that can drive the mass adoption, it's being killed by the speculation. That's how I say it.
I would just say I agree with it, but it's kind of like saying, flying is devastated by gravity, right? If it wasn't for that, right? This is humans. This is what humans do, right? Right at the beginning of porn, there was a great Avenue Q play that had a hit song, "The Internet is for porn," right? This is what at the beginning it's used for stuff that, maybe it's not the thing that you're proudest of, but it gets you from here to there. And it is what it is, and it's not going away.
Speculation is not bad because every startup in Web2 is speculation. We speculate at the company, we do something, and we put money. The founder usually sells us something, and then the vision would be different. And so I think speculation is not bad at the beginning, but there's need to be more than that. And I think that once we're gonna move from speculation to consumption. And I'm starting to see some of my portfolio company having like real revenue. And the thing that I keep telling people is that's why it's going to take a lot of time. There's need to be money coming in from outside the world, inside Web3, not because we're buying an asset, because when you buy an asset, you have an expectation of selling it at some point. And so this is like, it's just like taking money from one pocket and then moving to the other pocket. But when you start buying insurance, for example, we have a company called Nexus Mutual, and they're selling a lot of insurance every year. This is someone taking credit card and then buying insurance. When you buy something and you put money, real money into this thing called Web3, then you inject like real liquidity, not for market making purposes. And I think we're going to see more and more, consumption. But it's going to take a long time because, like you said, we need the e-commerce. And then we need the social, we need a few revolutions that bring more and more users. Right now, people are coming to crypto because this is financial nihilism. If we ask all the people here, I would say 90% came to crypto at some point because there was money. And then they come for the money, but they stay for the tech or they stay for the vision because, every bear market, we lose some people, but the people who stay are the best.
Adam, I would argue they came for the volatility. I think
volatility is
money.
I think there's three ways in which money come into the industry, right? The first is DCG, Collider. We put money to work. We're building companies. We're building infrastructure. We're investing in the future. The weird thing about crypto is that it shortcut the capital market cycle. And so now you're suddenly public because you have a token, and there's volatility to that token. And the next thing that attracts is speculation. And so we have a ton of speculation in the market. That is the feature. The feature is volatility. So we've got our second way we've brought value in, and the way we're also destroying value. In that third way that you started to speak about there is you're creating something of real economic value that someone appreciates, and they don't care that it's blockchain. They don't care that it's decentralized or anything. You're providing something of value, and they're getting value out of that, and they're willing to pay for it, and it benefits the digital asset ecosystem behind it, but really they're willing to spend their money on it, and that third leg is the thing where we really need to focus on bringing value in.
More of that, right?
Yeah.
Building consumer, not more infrastructure.
Yeah. But I would also, the funny thing is when most people use the word volatility, they mean it in a negative way, right? And there's nothing negative about volatility. It's like saying width is bad or height is bad, right? It depends what's the context. And obviously, by definition, the things that have the most upside have the most volatility. So in a lot of ways, people really do seek volatility.
I feel like there's different ways to look at this whole world of, I would say, financing and capital, right, within Web3, right? Because from one side, like you said, Matt, everything around almost making different types of token public and creating this more, the way I look at it, almost like capital markets on steroids in, unfortunately, still an unregulated way, right, which is one angle. But the other angle is more from an equity perspective, right, from a VC perspective. And here I want to ask both of you, Adam and Matt, Do you feel like VCs have learned from the past lessons, in terms of what we've seen in previous bubble, i.e. FTX investments, non-fully thoroughly due diligence investments that have been made? Or do you feel like basically what we're seeing now is VCs that are just repackaging it, but just calling it in a different name?
Matt, you go first.
I am the worst person on our investment committee. We do really early stage investing. And my first question is always, what's the total addressable market? And the investment team member that's pitching that just looks at me like I'm a complete idiot. And so I'm having to learn how to invest in innovation. And I've learned a couple things, and I have the great luck of getting to work with Barry Silbert, an amazing investor in this space. And what I've learned from watching Barry is the team is the first thing. And the second thing is making sure that they're well-funded enough that they can pivot a few times if they're wrong. And that's kind of it. And it kind of frustrated me that it was that simple, because I'm like a math guy. I actually did a whole project where we went and reread every investment memo we'd ever written. We had 90 factors that we classified every investment memo in. I did like really sophisticated statistical analysis on what the signals were, and I barely got anything out of it. I spent so much time and so much energy on this thing, and I barely got anything out of it because it's so hard to predict. Actually, incredibly, one of the factors, I had like just regular business people, not technology people, reading these investment memos. And I had a question, and they're like, do you understand this business? Do you understand how this thing makes money? And there was no negative consequence to not understanding the business or how this thing makes money. And so it's just to say, I think when you're investing early stage, you got to pick the right founders that are passionate about the problem and make sure that they're funded enough that they can be agile and flexible. And that's kind of all there is to it.
So we still don't understand the business. We just hope they'll be able to pivot according to the market in a smart way. Yeah. Adam?
Yeah, so it's right. I mean, my previous boss, Dave McClure, used to say there's only one thing you need to do in business. And I asked him, what is it? Product market fit? Just don't fucking die. That's it. Don't die. And then just do a lot of pivots. Like just do whatever works, and then don't get in love with your idea, and then just pivot, and then talk to your customer, try to do things that make sense, and at some point you'll feel when you have product fit. And by the way, you feel it. And I think that what worries me usually when I invest early, and I also invest early, sometimes in green founders who never started a company, you can see the difference between the founder who have felt product market fit once, and then it's like they're trying to get there, and then they're very agile, and they change all the time, and they go to the customer and they talk. And then you see the founder who never had product market fit, who believe sometimes they have product market fit, and they are stuck sometime longer, in some place. So, like Matt said, it's all about the team, the founders, and all about making sure that they have enough money in order to go through all the possible permutation until they can get there. And sometimes they'll die, but then I tell them, come back to me. It's completely fine to die and not have money, unless you've died and you've not tried enough, or you've done so many mistakes, but you never learn from them. But if you've learned, and if you pivoted and you did your best and you died, come back to me, I'll fund you again. This is the type of founders we want.
Thank you. And Michael, you've been around for a long time, right? Both in Paris, in Europe. Also, you have a venture arm that you're involved with. Would you say that the current capital environment in terms of fundraising looks more like 1999, 2008, or should I dare say 2016, 2017, in the happy days?
I think we're in our own time. It's very different from back in the days. If you look at 1999, basically, we didn't have we had, billions invested in NFTs, right? We didn't know the transactions online were very, very low. So we had a feeling that the internet is going to be something, but there was no proof of that. Now we know that people can move amazing amounts from all over the world, other countries. I don't know what, 30% of the 18 to 25 years old in the US have digital currencies in their pocket. So we know that the money is here, kind of. So some concepts have been proven. But now it's mostly speculation, TradFi getting in, but adoption and enterprise is zero or almost, to be very honest. And the use case of NFT, which I loved, I think it's going to come back with a different twist, different format. We're waiting for this. This will be, the usage and the mass adoption. So it's more mature than 1999. It's not a crisis because people who are saying even before Trump that it's a bear market. No, you don't know what's a bear market. Be back in 2001 and you're going to talk about bear market, right? Everybody was B2B, that was back to banking, or B2C was back to consulting.
Matt, you want to add something? You want to add something, Matt? No.
I think Matt said earlier, we're probably in the IRC days. We're probably in the early 90s. And it's going to take a while to get there because we're building something that is like different and there's like a negative perception sometimes to what we do. Up until a couple of months ago, we also had regulation against us, and it's really hard to build something so innovative, so challenging, so disruptive when the regulation don't want to, and when there's a lot of money involved, then it's also risky in some places.
Yeah, and since you've mentioned regulation, I want to double click on that, right? So, looking into different types of, obviously, previous, again, from the ICO to others that have done a lot of things, it's always a delicate balance, right, between, obviously, regulation and freedom of creativity versus how much do we need to protect investors and so on. And we often say that one of the most suitable phases would be don't fight with the SEC, right? And us at XRPL, we should know. But just, out of curiosity, when you think about, and I'm sure that a lot of founders here have a lot of lessons learned when you're trying to almost like curve your way through introducing a new financial product, a new service, what would be some of those lessons that you might identify and worked with founders in previous tech bubbles that you would recommend them to do today? Meaning speaking with the regulators at an early stage, joining different types of, industry groups or any other things that you might be able to recommend?
I'd start by not doing it in an unfriendly regulatory environment. Full stop. Don't try doing it in the United States. I've been telling people that since I tried it in 2018-19, and it was what it was, and hopefully now it's finally getting better, but we still have actually no rules on any clarity, and the next guy who comes in can change it on a dime.
But then when you scale, look how the big tech guys did, right? So many lobbying with the government, and then when Trump comes, now we shouldn't be woke and DEI, right? So they turn over and they adapt to the current regulators, and so you have to play with them, but you need to be big and spending a lot.
I think we have to follow our North Star and do the right thing. And so you say don't fight the SEC. We own a business that fought the SEC and they won, right?
Us too.
We own Grayscale. They sued the SEC and they won. And it was a fantastic moment for the industry, a fantastic re-energizing of the space, a great leadership by Michael Sonnenschein, who was leading that business force at that point. I think there is the right thing to do out there, and I think following that North Star is the way to do it. Everything we did was within regulatory boundaries and within regulatory requirements, and they just didn't want to play ball, and so you have to just bring them to the table.
But and you did God's work, seriously. What you did in Coin Center and like the people who fought the SEC, right, is God's work. But obviously for most startups who went down that road, they ran out of money.
Yeah, I think history kind of repeats itself because back then with the e-commerce moment, way before cryptography was like encryption was basically something that you couldn't do, you couldn't export in the States. And they were fighting, I remember, if I remember correctly, it was Netscape who was fighting, and they were like, no, you need to ship your browser with a lower encryption. And Mark Anderson said, if I'm going to do that, there's going to be a Russian founder who's going to build a better browser with better encryption and is going to win. And you want the state to win. You want to be at the forefront of your industry. And, founders are defiant by nature. they're disruptive, they're defiant, they don't follow rules. Obviously, when you're well-funded like Grayscale, you can win the SECs. When you're not, you can lose. But I think that we need to remember that regulation cannot really get up to speed with technology. Technology will always move faster, and the North Star is really important. And if it means fighting the SEC, then fuck it. But we need to what happened in the States, by the way, was amazing, because we found out that when we fight together and we pool resources, we're actually stronger than the regulator. We're stronger than the politician. And what happened in the States, I think, is probably, it should be a playbook for every other country, by the way, also Israel.
Thank you all. Now we're going to shift gears a bit, and we're going to play a little game of association, whereby I'm going to throw a statement to the air, and I want each of you to say the first thing that comes to mind, right? So each statement, we're going to do a flow. All right, we're going to start with what's the most overhyped Web3 buzzword you never want to hear again?
GM.
What do you say?
GM.
Oh, GM.
Adam, it's an association game, guys. Whatever comes to mind.
Tokenomics.
Hate and vitriol.
White papers.
What's the one lesson from the 2017 ICO era that nobody has learned?
Don't BS.
Launch a token too early.
Okay.
Not every business needs a token.
Okay.
Yeah, the pendulum swings from side to side.
Okay. What is still a scam, but we all pretend it is not?
Can you repeat that question?
What is still a scam, but we all pretend it is not?
Well, obviously crypto.
Same.
My marriage. X now because of that, yeah.
Okay. What's the worst speech you ever heard involving AI and blockchain?
No comment.
I'm yet to hear it.
I believe them all. I think that fits like a hand in glove. I really do.
Everything? Okay.
You never know. I've laughed at plenty of pitches we all have that turned out to be sick fucking stuff.
Okay. So you all got a chance to see a few of past founders, right, from the previous tech cycles. Which are the past tech cycles that you believe induced the worst founders' behavior?
Web 2.
Okay.
Same.
Failure. That's when they do the worst stuff.
And the last one would be, what is the one signal when you introduce different types of Web3 founders that tells you that this could actually have visibility as a product, functionality? Let me repeat that. If you would come across a Web3 founder, what do you need to hear from him that would actually make sense that this thing would have, like everything we said, a good go-to-market strategy, a good product market fit, which areas, which functionalities?
They're building a viable community.
Yeah, I think go-to-market is key, number one by far.
I think they found a real pain point and they felt that pain themselves.
Yeah, I think go-to-market strategy for me is super important. But especially for Israeli founders, what I want to hear is a good story. Because founders, obviously Israeli Web3 founders need more money down the road. And we're not going to be able to support them forever. And so they need to be able to pitch their story and make Matt believe in them so we can, raise more money from US investor.
And now just as a closing statement, right, after all the lesson learned, again, from all the previous things that we've seen here, what would be your key message to new founders coming into this new Web3 era, which is not that new, but in today's world?
I'll just repeat what I just said. Tell a good story. Be better at, founder in Israel is so technical that they sell features and not benefits. So I want to hear them, selling the benefits, understanding the customer pain point, and, selling it really like genuinely.
I would say it's tough, so try to get a cheat code, a shortcut, an unfair competitive advantage from scratch. And I will, because we're ending, just want to say that for every startup that has raised less than 2 million euros, I'll be happy to invite them for Paris Blockchain Week. You can drop me an email at michaelamar@gmail.com.
I think similar to what Adam was saying with the storytelling, I think that's critical, but I really want them to start with the answer first. I cannot stand any more conversations where they set up 10 dominoes and then knock the dominoes over and I don't hear the answer until the 11th domino. Like, give me the answer first.
I'll just add on to what Adam said about tell a story. Tell a big story and tell a simple story, right? That's all you need to do. That's what VCs want to hear. That's what VCs want to invest in. And they want to invest in something. They have to invest in something. They have money to invest.
Telling a big story and telling a simple story is like super, super hard.
I agree. We have 2 more minutes. If anyone has a question from the audience to this really amazing panel.
We have 6 minutes, the timer says.
Sorry. Thank you, Delia. So first of all, does anyone have a question before I ask my question? Roy, I'm giving you a chance. Michael, I want to ask you a question. Like, I've been going to Paris Blockchain Week for years. I think it's an amazing event. If you haven't been, please go. But what made you think about the AI conference, which is the first time I've heard about it? I'm sorry, I'm not in AI. How does a person create a mega conference?
Oh, wow, I don't know. We started by doing a Crypto Mondays, 15 guys in a bar.
Wow.
So that's how we started. Basically, we saw a hole in the market, right? In 2018, crypto in Europe, there was nothing. There was some kind of Ethereum community, but that was it. So we said there's an opportunity, right? We need to show to the US and Asian market there's a huge benefits in being in Europe with the corporates, with the good devs we have. So it's a market opportunity, basically. And AI is the same thing, as weird as it can be, because AI is X times larger, right, than crypto. But actually, there is no agnostic conference, which means all the big tech players have their own AI conference, from Salesforce to AWS, etc. But there's not much agnostic where you have to show the whole world the whole possibilities. And so we decided to build one, and actually it's working. It's working pretty well.
And are you helping us to push the agenda by pushing crypto to AI and having a track in your AI conference about crypto?
And both.
Both. Nice.
Both conference.
Nice. Cross proliferation. Next question. Yes, Roy, I'm coming to you.
So all of you guys said, you guys are investing in teams, and people are the most important piece of the company. What's the absolute, must-have characteristics you look for founders or a team?
Drive.
For me, it's persistent, being consistent, and being resilient. Just don't die.
Yeah, my word for that is grit. That's the way that I sum up that.
Yeah, solving for that's the hard thing, right? I have no special ability to meet some guy and go, hey, he has grit, that guy.
Yeah. So we have Mike here from EtherFi, right? And
hey, Mike.
Hey, so first of all, did you get an investment from any of these guys?
Yes, Collider.
Collider, okay, great. How hard was it for you? And these are like the 4th largest in the world today in TVL, right? Amazing company. How hard was it for you to raise funds?
We were in a very unusual and fortunate position, so it wasn't very hard. We were, I think we were at like 200 million TVL when we started the raise, and a month later we were at $1 billion. So it wasn't that hard.
Goldie, we had to fight to get into. No, really, we had to fight to get into EtherFi. I mean, the best
So you know what? Here's a question out of this. How do you fight when you get to these situations? Because for the tough ones, you really need to fight for. How do you fight?
So I tell them I'm Israeli. I'm kidding.
Let's
Not
ask
really.
Matt then, a civilized person.
So we had several instances where we fought against U.S. VC who basically brought like an Israeli fund with them, and at the end of the day, we do anything possible. We just show them that we really want to invest. There's no ego in this. It's like I flew to other countries. I took like many calls with them and just like tried to get them to like me or to like the team. And in some instances we lose, but in other we just show them. I was a founder for 15 years, so I am very empathic to. I know what the founder is going through, and I think in some instances this is something that they are looking for. And for Israeli founder, it's easy. It's easier because I just tell them you need someone on the boots on the ground, right? And so for me, what I do is usually I just tell the US investor we're not competing. I just invest way earlier than you. I de-risk for you, and then I hand you the perfect startup so you can invest at a lower valuation. And that way we can be good friends.
For us, I mentioned my data project that I did earlier. One of the signals that I looked at was oversubscribed deals, and I was really skeptical. And there's positive signal in oversubscribed deals. There is a benefit to getting into an oversubscribed deal. So how do we do it? We generally got a small check, so they can generally find a small spot for us. We really lead with our post-investment capabilities. So we don't just write a check, we write a human capital check as well. So we have a platform team that I built with a woman named Jacqueline Kwok, JK. Many of you probably know her. She is just an amazing human being and an amazing connector. And she and I built a set of 12 different capabilities that we have that we can bring to our founders to make their businesses more valuable. And kind of speaking to what Adam was saying, like out of those 12 things, the number one thing you can do is help them find their next investor. And so we have an entire effort around next round. How do we find you your next round investor? That's one of the 12 things that we do. And that's an investment by us. And that gets us into deals.
Sorry, go ahead.
My fund is much smaller, but we have an unfair competitive advantage, which is the conference. We get over 1,000 applications for a startup competition with $10 million in prize, and I get to get the first look of the decks. So that's interesting for me. But in the meantime, where we help the startups is that basically we are connectors, right? That's our job. So all the biggest blockchain players of the industry and even Web2 or TradFi are coming to our conference. So for us, it's very easy to test the startups. We tell them, okay, we're going to make some introductions during the conference, and we see how you're doing. And you also see how we're doing. And based on that, let's have a discussion for investments.
For us, because we don't have the amount of wealth and whatsoever you guys have, we're a small fund in a small country. What we do is we're just the first investor. And I think it's super important. I mean, I remember Dave McClure, my boss, again, I've learned a lot from him, told me, all you need is your first investor. Everything else is just bullshit. Your first investor, the person will write a check, and many times what we do, we see a great founder, they're about to leave to ETH Denver, and then my partner tell me, you have to write a check, you have to tell them, we have to win this deal, because in ETH Denver, they're going to meet Matt, and Matt is going to write them a check, we're going to lose the deal. And what we do is, if we like them, we just tell them, look, we'll invest in you. It's not a soft commitment, it's a hard commitment. Doesn't matter if you go to ETH Denver, you come back, there's no money, we'll give you 1 million, we'll give you 1 or 2 million. But we'll give you the space, go and talk to other people, whatever, and then come back. And I think the founder really liked the fact that we have this drive to say, hey, we want to invest in you. It doesn't matter what happened. We're not FOMOists. We don't look for oversubscribed deal. By the way, with Ethofy, that was different. Most of the time, we just invest first. We put a loud check, and then we try to work really hard to get people like Matt to like the founders. And sometimes it works.
All right. So thank you, everyone. Thank you guys for listening. If you are coming to Paris, please feel free to ping Michael and myself, because we're also based in Paris, like I said, and we're also partners of the Paris Blockchain Week. So thank you, everyone, and have a great afternoon. Thank you, panelists.
Building Blocks 2025 in Tel Aviv.